Hello everyone, thank you very much for joining us for today's lesson. We are going to be talking about integers. We're going to add and subtract integers, and really we're going to try and figure out what the final score is. What is the total score when we add and subtract integers? So of course, before we go any further, let's first try and figure out what integers are, or define integers. Integers may be a fancy word, but it really just means whole numbers, positive or negative whole numbers. There are several examples here. We're going to try and circle some of the integers since the definition of what an integer is very easy. So here there's actually three very obvious integers or whole numbers. You should immediately recognize that 4 is a whole number, so is 0, so is -3. They're not decimals, they're not fractions, so they are whole numbers. Now, there's one more not so obvious integer here, and that is square root of 25. Square root of 25, if you simplify it, or if you try and evaluate it, is really equal to positive or -5. And that, of course, is an integer. If we try and do the same thing with square root of 3, if you plug it into your calculator, you will get something like 1 point, I'm not sure, maybe 7 or something like that, but it's certainly not a whole number. It has a decimal in it. 7.5 is not a whole number because it's a decimal, so it's a part whole, part. And pi is also not an integer because from your previous math classes you should remember that pi is approximately 3.14. Of course, it's a number that never ends, so there's a ton of other numbers or an infinity of other numbers after it, but it's certainly not an integer. It's not a whole number. So those are our whole numbers. There are 4 rules when we add or subtract integers, and that's what we're going to review next. So rule number 1 is adding positive numbers. Now, if I'm playing basketball, and if I just add all of the positive numbers or all of the baskets that I've made, they would be positive, adding them would really mean that I'm moving, my score would be moving up. So this is nothing more than addition. We're actually moving upwards, we're adding. So in this example, we've got -4 plus +7. That really means that we start at -4. So here on the number line, we've got -4 is our start. The first integer, along with the sign in front of it, if there is a sign, tells us our starting point always. So that's our start. And then the plus +7, well, that really just means we're adding. So we can rewrite this, simplify it, and just write -4 plus 7. And if I do this on a number line, we would really be moving up 7 units from -4, and that should take us to +3. So again, on the number line, we would start at -4, and then we move up 7 units. And if we try and do that, we would end up at +3, as we see with the basketball on the number line. Rule number 2, subtracting positive numbers. So again, if I think about basketball example, this will be subtracting or taking away all of the positive baskets that I've made. So all the baskets that were positive, that were my scores, I would be taking them away. So which way would I be going? My score would end up going down. So this is subtraction. I would be going downwards. I would be removing stuff. So here on an example, we've got +11, which is again our starting point. So we start at +11, and then we're going to move down 8 units. We can simplify this as just 11 minus 8, and we can see the start here is 11, and then we're moving down 8 units. We should end up at +3. So again, on the number line, we would start at 11 and move 8 units down. And again, that ends up being, the final answer ends up being +3. All right, let's move on to rule number 3, adding negative numbers. So again, if I'm using a basketball analogy, I would be, if I'm trying to calculate my score and I try to add all the negatives, so all of the misses that I've made, my score would go down. I think you would agree. If I'm adding all the misses, my score is going down. So this is nothing more than subtraction. We're going downwards, so it's subtraction. In the example here, we've got +2, and then we're going to add -8. So again, the +2 is our start. So that is our start point. We will, on the number line, start at +2. And then we're going to add negative 8. Again, we said we're going to simplify that, and we can simply write 2 minus 8, and you should agree with me that you would end up at negative 6. So again, on the number line, we start at 2, we move 8 units down, and the basketball should land at negative 6 as the final answer, and that is the total score. All right, rule number 4. For some, this is the easiest. For others, this is the hardest rule to remember. It says subtracting negative numbers. So again, if I'm using a basketball example, this is like me saying, hey, all those baskets that you've missed, all those negative numbers, we're going to subtract them. We're going to remove them. We're going to take them away. So if I take away or subtract all the baskets that I've missed, which way is my score going to go? I hope you agree it's going to go up. I'm going to look like a baller, right? So this is addition. So that's right, subtracting a negative number. Sometimes people say 2 negatives make a positive, and this is where it comes from. You're subtracting a negative number. It's like you're adding. So if I use an example here, 1 minus negative 8, I can really simplify that and write 1 plus 8. Again, I would start at positive 1, so this is where my starting point is, because that is the first number that's written, the first integer, and I would go up 8 units, which simply takes me to positive 9. So on the number line, we start at 1 and move 8 units upwards, and we end up with 9 as our final score. So that's it. 4 rules of adding and subtracting integers. Now you do have to pay attention because it's easy to go in the opposite or in the wrong direction. So let's go ahead and practice a few of these examples. So we have negative 5 minus negative 7. Where would we start on the number line? Again, the first integer along with the sign in front of it, if it's written, is your starting point. So I'm going to put my basketball at negative 5. That is your start. And then which way will you move? Well, what are we doing here? We're subtracting a negative number. If I subtract a negative number, that really is addition. So we're going to move up 7 units. I can really rewrite this as negative 5 plus 7, and you should agree with me, if you move up 7 units, you'll end up at positive 2. Let's practice the next example, 4 minus positive 9. Where do I start? Again, the very first integer is your starting point, and that is 4. Put a basketball at 4. That is your start. And which way are we going to go? It says we're subtracting a positive number. Subtracting a positive number is subtraction overall. So we're going to move down 9 units. I can rewrite this as 4 minus 9, and you should see that I'm going to end up at negative 5. So if you go down 9 units, your final answer should be negative 5. Negative 6 plus negative 7. Again, the starting point, if you try to do this on your own, you should recognize that the starting point is negative 6. So that's where we start. Right here is our basketball. And then we're going to add a negative number. Again, adding a negative number is subtraction. So we're going to move down 7 units. And of course, if you have your own number line, sometimes you have to extend it. I'm going to move down 7 units. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I will have to extend it and see what the answer is. Negative 11, negative 12, negative 13 should be the answer. We start at negative 6, we go down 7 units, and negative 13 is the correct answer. So practicing making your own number lines and extending them is actually a really good exercise, because it does help you work with positive and negative numbers. I think we have one more example, negative 6 plus positive 8. The starting point here is negative 6. We start at negative 6, and then we add a positive number, which is really addition. So we're going to move up 8 units, and we can rewrite this as negative 6 plus 8. And then if you go ahead and look on the number line, you should end up at positive 2. So sometimes when we're doing these jumps on the number line, people like to jump to friendly numbers. So if I start at negative 6, I can make a swift jump to 0, and I'll say, well, okay, I've gone up 6 units. I need to go up 8 altogether. So I want to go up 8 units, which means I still have 2 more to hop. So that would give me a total of positive 8. And that's sometimes a useful strategy. So jumping to some friendly numbers may kind of make this go a little bit faster. Okay, so what are you going to do today? So you're at home. You probably have a garbage can without a lid. We want you to take the lid off, and you might have a small little basketball, or you definitely have a piece of paper if you don't have a basketball. Scrunch up your piece of paper into a ball, sit about 5 feet away from a garbage can, and you're going to try and make a basket into a garbage can. If you make the basket, you're going to get a positive point that we assign. If you miss the basket, you're going to get a negative point, and you're going to write that in the box. So there are 4 boxes here, so you're going to try this 4 times. So in the first basket, or if you're in your first attempt, let's say that you make the basket, you will get plus 19. So in your box, you're going to write 19. Then you're going to do the same thing again. You're going to pick up your scrunched up piece of paper or your basketball, try it again. You're going to aim and you're going to miss it. Okay, so if you miss the second one, you'll get the negative number. So you'll put -5 in that box of yours. Third time, let's say you've made it, you're going to put a +6. And the fourth time, let's say you miss, you're going to write in the negative of the 2 numbers, -2. And now your homework is to try and figure out the total score if this was your outcome. Once you do that, you're going to record it and let us know what it is. And then you're going to do it again. So there's 4 more numbers. You get a positive and a negative. You can stop the video here and make up your boxes and then try it and see what your total score is. Tell us in the video what you got, and try. If it's too easy and if you're making all your points, you can either make your garbage can smaller. So maybe use a cup, maybe like a case where you hold pencils and pens on your desk, or make your basketball bigger, so use a bigger piece of paper, or move that garbage can further away. So don't make it 5 feet away, make it 10 feet away if you've got enough space. Make it a challenge. And again, reply in the comments below and tell us your total score. Looking forward to seeing it. Thanks so much for joining us today. We hope that you learned a little bit about integers, a little bit about adding and subtracting them, and hopefully you've practiced some basketball. Have a nice day.